mountains of debt, not just from the federal government, but from the states now, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland rolling out their budgets. And we've got the economy bouncing back this quarter. But how worried are you about this government debt?
Oh, I think significantly so, Chris. But just look at the GDP. So GDP rose by 3.3% in between the June and September quarter. That's on an annualised basis. It would have probably been 5 had it not been for Victoria, because bear in mind this is a backward-looking measure. There is a considerable bounce back. The output, the GDP to the year ending in the September quarter is still negative. But in many ways, I think the economy is looking perhaps a little better than people might have anticipated. But as for government debt, unbelievable. I mean, those state treasurers are like kids in lolly shops, right? I mean, they kind of say all these, serious words and, we had to do this. But really, I think all the important restrictions on overspending and accumulation of debt have simply been lifted in the name of COVID. But when you actually look at the revenue hit of COVID, say in the Queensland case, they said they were losing maybe $15 billion in revenue. I mean, they're spending $65, $70 billion a year. And that was $15 billion over 4 years. So it's a very convenient excuse to really shower the money around.
Yeah, politicians never need an excuse to spend more money, and they've been given one this year. And as you say, all of them have taken advantage of it. I've got to ask you about the new trend in business, the virtue signalling and policy making through business. I want to show you a quote here from Shane Elliott, the chief executive of the ANZ Bank. And he says, we're pretty proud of the fact that since I became CEO, we've not lent $1 new to the coal industry and our exposure has come down. Now, what is it about banks who have been found to rip off their customers and behave inappropriately themselves? They're now the moral arbiters of the business world?
Well, I guess the real hope is that everyone won't follow the ANZ example. And so if you don't like the look of that kind of faux virtue signalling, because where does that start and end, frankly? Because, depending on one's moral position, there are sort of some dodgy other businesses too to which they lend. Although that's not my personal view, frankly.
Well, what about if you think about climate? What about supporting Virgin or Qantas, who are completely reliant on fossil fuels, for instance? I mean, how far do they want to push this? That their own companies survive on electricity that is largely generated by coal and gas.
Yes, I mean, and like today I was reading that the second biggest electricity user in Victoria beyond the aluminium industry is actually the railway system. Now, people think the railway system is fabulous and we need more of them, right? So I just think it's a thin end of the wedge. I want banks to be boring. I want them to behave appropriately for their customers, and I don't want them to be establishing agendas well beyond their remit. But, I'm afraid you see this right through the corporate world, and it is a reflection of the people on those boards. They are prosecuting other agendas in effect, and the only constraint really is that the shareholders revolt. But bear in mind, there's a lot of concentration in the shareholding registry. So the industry super funds, for example, probably not only don't object to ANZ doing this, but possibly push it.